everybody, it's Triple Play Week, and I am Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I am here with
Misty
and
Natalie.
Look how easy that worked. Anyway, today, the topic we've chosen to teach you about today is flying geese, or many gooses, or whatever, whatever you want to do. But we each have a project, and we've each done the geese a different way. And so we hope this gives you lots of ideas and lots of new methods to learn as well. So what do you say, girls? Shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right, let's get started.
You're going to love it.
So my project is called Every Which Way But Goose, and those of you who are my age will get that line, that reference. But anyway, this is my quilt back here, and I just think it's really fun. So to make this quilt, I used Aunt Grace's apron, and I love a 30s print. It's just so cute. It's so happy and cheerful, and it's just really fun. And this one is by Judie Rothermel for Marcus Fabrics. You're going to need 4 charm packs for this quilt, plus a ½ yard of a coordinating fabric, because I wanted to finish out this last row with 45 blocks. It makes a great quilt. The quilt size is 76 by 84, and it's just a great size. And so you're also going to need some background fabric. Now you're going to need 4 packs of 5-inch squares as well for that, plus 1 yard. And that yard is going to include your few extra blocks down here and this first inner border. Your binding is 3/4 of a yard, and your background right here, look how pretty this backing is. And so for this pretty backing, this is a pretty big floral, you're going to need 5 1/4 yards, and it just makes this gorgeous little quilt. So my method of making flying geese is using half square triangles. And so I'm going to be showing you how to do that today. And because you have 4 charm packs, you're going to have 4 colors that are the same color. And so you're going to be able to make these long blocks like this, 4 in a row, 4 in a row, 4 in a row. And so for me, I wanted them the same. Now I did lay it out and try it all scrappy, and it does look cool all scrappy. Plus, there are a ton of ways that you can lay out these flying geese, so don't be afraid to play with that either. But to make mine, what I did was I took my 5-inch square of color and my 5-inch square of white. I drew a line corner to corner on my square, and I sewed on both sides of that. You're going to sew 1/4 inch from the line on each side like this. And I am going to just get my next block. These are great to chain piece because you can just keep going. So I've got 1 made here, and I'm going to make 2 to show you how I chain piece. And oh, I got to draw the line. Here we go. So to draw the line, I'm just going to take my ruler, put it corner to corner, and I'm just using a regular pen because I'm going to cut on that line. And so you have a nice line like that. We're going to lay it on our fabric, and we're going to sew, again, 1/4 inch from that line. And you can mark all your squares and just do them one after another after another. So you can see I'm doing this, sewing down, adding the next one. What I'm going to do when I get all of mine on there is I'm just going to flip them around, and I'm going to sew the other sides. So just like that, you'll have your whole bunch of them all done. And we're going to just plop these apart. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my little ruler, and I'm going to trim on that line. And you're going to get 2 half square triangles from each set you do sew. You'll get 2. So let's go press those open. And let me move this out of the way right here. Get my little blocks over here. We're going to be squaring these to 4 1/2. So you want to press them. If you're using the block lock ruler or a square ruler with a 45 line, you'll want to press them open. If you're using the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer, you will want to leave them closed and measure them from there. So right here, we are going to just set that seam and roll it back. And do it to all of these. And today I'm going to be using the block lock ruler to square mine. There are lots of ways to square a quilt block. Find one that works well for you. All right, so now with the block lock, I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to find the 4 1/2 inch mark and slide that down like that. Oh, that's 4. I almost cut it at the 4. 4 1/2. Here we go. Slide it up. I was looking at it, I was thinking, that looks pretty small. So we're coming up here to 4 1/2, and we're just going to cut both sides like this. Now the benefit of squaring your blocks is that they will all fit together perfectly, and you won't have any stress sewing them together. So 4.5. And some of them, look, there's very little waste on this one. You just never know with the way I sew. All right, here we go. Trim and trim. And what I'm doing when I square these, let me just show you real quick here. So I'm making sure this ruler has an indent right here. We're going to snug it right up to that seam line. I'm going to match my lines out here on the bottom to the 4.5. And if they don't come perfect, like see how this one sticks over a little bit? If they're not perfect, then what I'll do is I'll trim this side like this, and then I'm going to flip this around and trim the other side as well. And you want to make sure that your little logo, if you press to the dark side, your little logo will always be on your background fabric. So that's how that works for me. And then we're just going to trim this off over here. And then we have these all done. Now you're going to want 4 sets of these. And I happen to have 3 sets with me, but you'll want 4 to make the whole block up there. And the one block, we're going to sew together so the colors come together like this. We're going to sew every one together so the colors come together, and we are going to make a set of 4 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know I only have 3, but you're going to do 4 so it can go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this next one, how you do this one is you're just going to flip these around and you're going to put your colors together. So we've got 1, just like this, 2, 3, and then you will again have an additional 4th one on here, and you just sew them together just like that. So let's look at the quilt and see what I did. So on this one right here, this first set right here is going up and it's color together. The next set is white together but going down. And it's up, down, like this. And then the second row, I just staggered that. So I started with the white in, and the color in is the next one, but it's going down. So it's just the opposite of what I did. So you'll just have to look at the picture kind of to follow along with that. Comes together pretty easy. I sewed these 4 pieces together, and then I sewed them together in rows. And the rows are very easy because the row is all the same. It's up, down, all the way across. And let's see how many we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these across. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So that's how I assembled my quilt and my rows. Then I put a little 2.5-inch border around the outside. I didn't want to put another big florally border, and one of the reasons is that it has a little bit more of a modern feel to me when you use a 30s fabric and you kind of just put a plain border on there. And I like that look. So little border, little 2.5-inch binding, and it just came together so cute. So this is a super easy project. It's a great project if you want to wrap it up, and it's a great project if you just, you have your leftovers and that sort of thing. So now let's see what Misty's got for us.
All right, I had so much fun making this flying geese project. It's one of my favorite blocks. I love how simple and modern they always look. And for my quilt, I used this beautiful Kaffe Florals Rainbow by Kaffe Fassett for FreeSpirit Fabrics. To make this quilt, you're going to need 4 packages of print squares and 4 packages of background, as well as an additional 1.5 yards of background fabric, and that includes your inner border. And then you're going to need another 1.5 yards for this outer border that you see here, and that's a 6-inch border. So to make this block, it's really simple, and the first part is done exactly like Jenny showed you. So we use 2 5-inch squares, one of print, one of dark, draw a line corner to corner, sew on either side and cut in half, square to 4.5, and we put it together into our flying geese, and that makes this part of our block right here. So I've got that ready to go. So for our second flying geese, we're just going to take one of our 5-inch print squares and we're going to cut it in half. So we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to go ahead and cut a 1/2 inch off of one side, so that it'll be off of both of those pieces. just like so. And then we'll have two pieces that measure 2.5 by 4.5. And I've got some here, and you can see this is what we're aiming for. So I'm going to take two 2.5-inch squares, and I've drawn the line on both of these, and we're going to lay these on here and sew right on that line. Then we're going to trim this off. And we're going to press that back. And we'll, oh, here it is. We'll add our other square to the other side. I'm going to make sure that it crisscrosses with that first piece that we put on. And that is why we cut it down to 4.5, because then we'll have enough overlap and we won't lose our point. Go ahead and trim that one off as well. And roll it back. And we're going to make two of those, and then we're going to orient them just like this and sew these together. So we'll lay those right sides together. Sew those with a 1/4-inch seam. And then we can press this back. And then that's going to go in our block right here. And now we're going to make our small flying geese, which you can see here on our finished block. So we're going to start by cutting down our 5-inch squares in 4ths. So in half and in half again, so that we have 2.5-inch squares that we're working with. And I've got one here all ready to go, but I wanted you to know where I got it. And so we're going to lay a white square on top of it, and we're going to draw a line and sew right on that line. So I have one already sewn here. You can see just like that. I've sewn corner to corner, and we're going to trim off the excess, and that's our waist. And then we're going to press this back. Then we're going to take another 2.5-inch white square, and we're going to place this on top. And we're going to draw a line again, corner to corner, but we're going to make sure that when we draw the line, it's going down the middle of this half square triangle that we're putting it with. So we're going to draw this direction, like so. Oops, make sure it doesn't slip. And then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of that line. I've gone ahead and done that here. And so now I'm just going to cut these in half. And now you can see by doing that, I get this little flying geese that's kind of offset a little bit. I don't know how to describe it, but we're going to press this back, and then we're going to square these to 2 inches. So we'll square these to 2, and then we're going to add a 1.5 by 2-inch piece just like this, and we're going to sew them together in a strip, and we're going to add it to a 3 by 4.5-inch strip. And so we'll sew these together. And then press. And then all the components for our block are ready to go. And you can see that I've got 4 sewn together here. And I did keep all of my colors together. This looks really cute, all scrappy as well. But I loved the idea of kind of working the rainbow around in a circle with the geese. So I took 4 blocks that all had the same color, and I just rotated them around like this so that my geese were spinning. Oops, nope, did it the wrong way. This way. This way is right. My little geese meet together in the middle like that, so that they're spinning around and you get all of this movement with your block. And then I put 4 of the same color together, and I did red, yellow, green, and blue around the quilt. And so this is actually your full block. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks across and 4 blocks down. Like I said, it measures 79 by 79, and I called it Gaggle of Geese. And so up next is Natalie.
I am so excited to show you the quilt that I made using flying geese. I called it Westwind because I thought that all these little geese looked like a weather vane that you sometimes see on the top of a house, and they spin all around with the little arrows, and I thought it was really cute. I'm using a fabric line called Shadow Play. It's actually custom put together for Missouri Star. It's by Maywood Studios, and the quilt is 53 by 63. You need 1 charm pack of color for all these little flying geese. You need 2 yards, 2 1/4 yards solid for your background, and you need 1 1/4 yard for your border. I added a 6-inch border because it's kind of a little quilt. I think if you did another charm pack, you'd get a great big quilt, and that would be amazing and beautiful. And once you see how easy it is, you will be excited to make more of these blocks because it is really fun. Okay, so I have a completely different method. There's so many ways to make flying geese. And I'm going to show you a different method that I think people have seen. It's not brand new. I didn't come up with it, but we rarely use it here at Missouri Star. And I think sometimes it seems a little bit intimidating because it's not just a half square triangle, and it looks a little funny. You'll see what I mean. All right, so you're going to take 1 charm pack, and we're going to end up getting 4 flying geese from this 1 charm pack. So what we're going to do, we use, from your background, you're going to cut little squares of white that are 2 3/4, and you're going to draw the line. And what we're going to do is line them up diagonally on this charm square, and they are going to overlap by roughly like a 1/2 inch square. You can see that, I don't know. I think, yeah, it overlaps by a 1/2 inch. You can pin these if you're worried. It wasn't too difficult because it's such a small space to keep them together, but you're going to sew on either side of the line. And I will do that just right now. You're going to sew right through that space where they overlap. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And so I flip that around and keep going. Okay, so here's where it gets fun. So we're going to cut these apart right on that line that we drew, corner to corner. And then you end up with these 2 pieces that have these little triangles. We're going to flip them back and press them. This one as well. And if you look closely, you can still see there's a little bit of overlap here in this section. See how these still overlap? What that does is that gives you that space for the peak of the flying geese. All right, so then you take an additional square, 2 3/4 again. We're going to draw a line. We'll just go ahead and do 2 real quick. Oh, that didn't draw. Let me do it again. Pen facing straight down. All right, then this one, So this kind of looks like a heart or like a cat face or something. I think they're kind of funky looking. But then what you're going to do is you're going to add this to this bottom, this square with the line drawn to the bottom corner, and you're going to sew again on either side of the line. That will create 2 flying geese. It's kind of magical. All right, so I'm going to sew both of these so you can see how these come together. Make sure that lines up in the corner. All right, now I've got these 2 done. We're going to cut them apart right on that line. And we end up with 4 flying geese from 1 charm square, which I think is pretty darn cool. All right, so these flying geese, though, they end up being a little bit different size than your normal. The flying geese that you've seen today have ended up being 4.5, and these ones end up being 2.25 by 4. And the reason that I did that is because I wanted to stack 2 together and then have them come out to a 4-inch square, so that I could put them together in basically a 9-patch construction method. So what I did, and this is kind of a way that I like to make my tools work for me. So this flying geese block lock tool is super fun. It has the little cutouts, so I can push it up into the point and make sure that I have 1/4 inch between the colored peak right here and the edge of the fabric. So all I did was line that up and trimmed off the very top. Now most of these you're just shaving a tiny bit, but this is how I made sure after, I mean, obviously it's easier to trim them after they're pressed. So let's do that real quick. But I want to show you this because it's part of how I squared things up, and I think that it might be helpful to some of you to know that you can use tools even if it's not 100% the way they were designed or completely perfect. So all I'm doing is getting this straight top and making sure that my peak is right in the center. And this assisted me quite a bit in squaring up later. So once these are done, then I take my squaring tool. I can't use a block lock because it's flying geese, so I'm not going to use this tool. But this one has the 45-degree angle, and I'm going for a 4 by 2.25. So I flipped this upside down, and I lined up my 45 on this line. So now when you're looking at it, you can see we've got a 4-inch line here, and we've got our 2.25. So we're going to pull this forward. We're going to make sure that that line lines up with that one. This is our 2.25 line, so I'm keeping that nice and square. And then you can see on your ruler, this corner is going to be accurate because you have your 45. This corner you want to watch and make sure that the 4 line lines up with the seam line of your geese. And that is how you square it to make sure that your point is in the middle and your sides are going to come out with proper points, as opposed to it getting like crooked or having one side that's fatter than the other. So this is how you would line that up. All right, so I've checked to make sure everything's good. My 45 lines up with my seam. I've got my 1/4 inch up here. I'm going to cut off the bottom there, and then I'm going to flip it around, and all I'm going to do is get this last side. So I check to make sure still my these little side, I don't know what to call them, the little diagonal seams at the bottom, they are still lining up with the edges of the 4-inch grid line on the ruler. And we check to make sure, yes, we still have a 1/4 inch between the peak and the edge of our block. So once you have all of your flying geese squared up to 2 1/4 by 4, then we're going to start laying out our blocks so we can sew everything together. So what I did is I put all of my light flying geese in the middle and the dark ones on the outside. And then you have 4-inch blocks in your corners and in your center. So like this. This one goes here. These guys point in. And 2 more, just like that. All right, so I do have one tip for you, and as I sewed my little flying geese together, I stacked them like this, and then the seam that I'm going to sew is this seam. So you'll flip it over so your light one is on top, and do you see this little crisscross of seams right here? If you make sure that your seam line stays to the right of that crisscross, you will not lose that point. So that's one thing that you can remember as you're sewing along. But we're going to sew all of these little ones together, and I've got a finished block for you. It looks just like this. Easy peasy, goes together like a 9 patch. And I ended up with 4 by 5. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see on here there's a couple where this one is blue and green and this one is pink and red, but mostly they're gradiated, you know, a light shade and a dark shade. And I think it looks so cute. I just love it. I love how it came together. And I hope that you enjoy it as well.
So what do you think, girls? Have we taught them all the ways of the flying geese?
Some.
Oh, yeah.
We've taught them a few, haven't we?
Yep, there's probably more out there to learn.
Oh, there probably is. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this triple play on the flying geese and all of our different methods. And we'll see you next time from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.
Bye.
See you later, guys.